Hey everyone, excited to be back for this week's edition of Frequently Asked Questions for Commercial Real Estate. In today's video, what I want to do was share some insights to the showing process. If you were a commercial broker in regardless of where you are in the country, that's going to be an integral part of you being able to close a transaction is the showing process. So what I'm going to go ahead and do in this video is share with you my pre-showing checklist to make sure that I'm as effective as possible when it comes to showing a property, and that we hash out a lot of different items prior to actually getting on site, so we make sure that it's worth the time of both you as the broker and also for your client as well. So before we dive into this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So now you've done that, go ahead and like and subscribe below. Let's go ahead and dive into this episode. All right, so as some of you may know, or you may not know, is I'm very process heavy. I studied process engineering in college, industrial engineering. So really within my business, I try to create processes for literally everything. The reason why is because it helps create a consistent process by which results can be more predictable. Whereas if you don't have a process in place, you're kind of just shooting from the hip all the time, and your results will be very sporadic. So what I wanted to share with you guys today is my pre-listing or pre-showing checklist, I should say, that I execute prior to actually scheduling a showing and going on site to show a property to one of my clients. So the first thing I do when it comes to my pre-showing checklist is to get a feel for their search requirements. Typically, when you start working with a client, there may be some properties that you immediately identify that could be a good fit for them, but there's also times where you just set them up on drip campaigns. Essentially what this means is that they will be sent emails of particular properties that come to market that meet their search criteria. So, in situations where you've set them up on drip campaigns and they may be also doing their own research, you got to make sure that if they send you a property that they're interested in seeing, that it actually aligns with the criteria that they had provided you at the beginning. I can't tell you how many times I've been sent properties from clients that say, "Oh, this is a perfect property. I really want to see this space." And I'd start doing some digging and doing some research, and I realize, well, this space is completely different than what you provided me as far as search criteria is concerned. And that may be fine, but you want to bring that to their attention to start off with. And you may say, you may have told me that, you wanted a 5,000 square foot space. This is 1,200 square feet or 1,500 square feet. Are you sure this is something that's really going to fit your needs? Or maybe you say you want to be located in this particular area, and now this property is like in a completely different area that you said you didn't want to be in, right? So you just want to be able to bring that to their attention so they can make the determination on their own. And 9 times or 8 times out of 10, I should say, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, actually that's not really what I wanted." And there you just saved yourself and your client some time as far as going to see the property, because it may not align with what they're looking for. So that's number one, is to get clear on the search criteria and then sift through it to make sure that your client understands what exactly this property has to offer. Number 2 thing that I like to do is I like to look at the zoning of the property. Now, the reason why you like to do this is because zoning dictates what uses can operate on site. So if the property is not properly zoned, there's 2 things you can do. One, you'd have to secure some sort of conditional use permit or rezone the property altogether. Or number 2 is just you pass on the property altogether. So there are some clients that are open to the rezoning process or the conditional use process. If that's the case, you explain to your client what exactly that is and how it works, and then they make the determination about whether or not they want to move forward. But, understanding the zoning before you get into it, in my opinion, is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. So that's number 2, is I look at the zoning and make sure that their business use can actually operate on site. And if it can't, I try to explain the process to my client and then have them make the determination about whether or not they actually want to move forward with it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is I like to research the backstory and run comps. We have something called the Property Valuation Administration. It's like our PVA, it's called, where all the property records are held and documented. So you can get a good feel for who the owner of the property is, how long they've owned it, if there's been major renovations done to it in the last several years because of the assessed value jump. So there's a lot of insights you can glean just from doing a little bit of research on the property. And then sometimes that can help give you a context to why the seller may be selling, or why, things are happening the way they are within the space. And so, I typically do a little bit of legwork on my end. I also go back in time and try to get a feel for what the comps are. So I look at properties that sold within the area to try to get me a feel for what the property value could potentially be. And if it's in line with that range, great. If not, then I kind of relay that over to my client and make sure that they understand that this may be well overpriced or whatever it may be at that point in time. So number 3 thing that I have to do is do a little bit of research. Go to the PVA, get a feel for what's out there, and then also run some comps so I can provide some context to my client. And then finally, number 4, once I've run through that checklist and have a pretty good understanding of what the property has to offer, I call the agent to, number 1, gather data on the property. So, I usually have a brief conversation with the agent to get context as to why the seller may be selling, and then try to gather any other relevant property data that I can to make sure that I can provide useful information to my client. And you'd be very surprised what brokers are willing to share in the mode of transparency with the other party. And so, I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with agents that have provided unique context to the property. Therefore, I relay it to my client. And once we go on site to see the property, we have a very good understanding of what we're getting into so that my client can finally make a good determination about whether or not they want to move forward with it. So that's the 4 steps that I usually take. Once I go through that process, I schedule the showing and we meet on site, walk through it, and then the rest is history, as they say. So, hopefully you gain some value from this video. If you're an agent in the market, this is a good way to be able to just walk through things so that that you're able to best represent your client. If you guys are looking for property, this is what a good agent should do, is to make sure that they are screening properties well for you so that you understand exactly what you're getting into. If you are looking for properties in the Louisville metro and surrounding areas, I'd be happy to help you go through this process myself. If you want to reach out to me, my number is 502-536-7315, or you can reach me via email at raphael@crisantigroup.com. Along with that, if you guys like this channel, I would greatly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.